Lenovo sent me over this. This is a ThinkPad P14s. Looks exactly like a ThinkPad. This is a 14-inch one, so it's not too big, it's not too small. 14-inch workstation, so it's not too thin, but it's also not too thick. You get your typical ThinkPad ruggedness, you know, metal chassis, all of that. Nice, beautiful matte finish and all that. Pretty light overall. You can see there's something a little bit different with the screen there. It looks a little bit blue. Well, they actually sent me the OLED model. This is a very high resolution, 2880 by 1800p OLED screen with beautiful color accuracy as well. You can spec this out with your typical IPS screen. So if you're really worried about battery life, you know, you can get a 1200p IPS screen if you're just looking for, you know, maximum battery life or whatever. But if you're going to be doing something like professional color work, graphic design on that, you're going to be getting a really beautiful screen option out of this OLED screen here. They decked this thing out with 64 gigabytes of RAM. It has the i7 processor, 1370p. So this thing's pretty decked out, beautiful screen as well. And then a really cool feature of this as well is you actually get dedicated Nvidia graphics. It's not going to be your typical, you know, 3050, 3060, that. It's going to be a very low wattage Nvidia graphics. It's the A500. What it's meant to do is it's supposed to help you with doing productivity tasks, 3D modeling, video editing, all these type of tasks. But of course, because it is dedicated graphics, I do test gaming on this laptop. It's got this kind of velvety thing that they used recently, actually quite a bit. There we go. It's more of a traditional ThinkPad, you can see there. It's actually a little bit thicker than I anticipated, but this is like the P series. Typically the P series ThinkPads are a little wee bit thicker than, say, for example, you know, if you get into the X series and that, they're a little bit thinner. So it's slightly different. It's not quite black. It's like almost charcoal color, which is nice. Bottom, same idea. You know, it's got that charcoal black look to it. Doesn't feel very heavy, to be honest. It feels pretty light. So 1,400-ish grams. So you're looking at a little over 3 pounds, probably 3.5 pounds or so for the Americans. So you get your RJ45 Ethernet there, 2 USB-C on the side there. One of them does support power delivery, you can see there. I think technically they'll both charge, but we'll try them out. HDMI, USB-A there, and headphone microphone combo jack. It's actually a lot of I/O on the left side there, 3 USB ports basically. Right side there, a little bit less, so you get your USB-A there as well, Kensington lock slot, and I think that's going to be for a it's going to be a card reader there, so if you have like a security card, but I guess that this is a blank model, so you can probably, you know, spec that out when you buy it. And then obviously nothing on the back. Actually, you get your little SIM card tray. Very traditional style ThinkPad here. I mean, if you've used ThinkPads, you know exactly what to expect. It looks like a ThinkPad. Speaker grill's up here, so they're going to be coming at your front there. Fingerprint scanner / power on. You know, not the thinnest bezels ever, but it's a ThinkPad. That's kind of the design there. And then up here you have your physical camera shutter. So you notice that there was no camera BIOS kind of kill off there. You get a physical camera shutter there, and I can see a camera for Windows Facial Hello, so you'll get Windows Facial Unlock. And then your traditional, you know, look there, smooth trackpad and all that too. So typical ThinkPad kind of style. So it looks like it has the locking style of screws here. You can see that the screws are not coming out. Typically with this style of ThinkPad, there's kind of like a hinge on the bottom here. So you don't want to, you know, pull up from here because you'll actually bend them. So you want to take it off the back and kind of hinge it towards you. That's typically how these are. Let's see, I'm not sure, but I mean, that's probably how it is. Sometimes these screws get stuck. Nope. Okay, so there is the hinge style there. You can see it's got the little, I wouldn't call it a clip, but there's a little bit where it bites. So typically when you take it off, you're going to want to pull it, you know, that way, not from the front. So in here, you can see there's actually like some like copper, basically just, you know, copper foil almost on there to take some heat away from something. You know, metal there, magnesium or whatever, be like a metal lid, some structural stuff there, a little bit of heat there. So pretty decent battery here, 52 watt hour battery. It looks like there's a little bit of room over here. I'm not sure if you can get a larger battery. It's pretty crammed in there, 52 watt hours. Typically these business style ones, the lower one would be like, I don't know, 42-ish watt hours, and you can spec it up to 52. So that looks pretty good there. I'm curious what these like metal tracers are here. It's interesting, some type of antenna type deal or something like that. See, I'm wondering if part of the cellular antenna, so if you get the cellular model, if they feed off of that, because it keeps, you know, a lot of the metal away from, keeps a lot of the antenna away from this back here. So I'm anticipating that's, you know, some type of antenna there to just increase reception, because there's some metal on there. It's very interesting. Okay, other than that, the RAM is soldered. You can see it's under here. So make sure you spec it out with the RAM that you want, because you're not going to be upgrading it. It's underneath there. It's going to give you your heatsink there. You can see your slot here for if you're going to fire up a WWAN. So if you want cellular, you're going to put it in here, and then you wire that up right there. So basically, there is a slot there, M.2. Sometimes you can substitute out an NVMe, probably not though. That should be for cellular. So basically, plop it in, get your cellular there. It's got your antennas already wired up, which are feeding down here to give you increased reception. So this model doesn't have that wired up, but it looks like you probably get pretty good cellular reception. M.2 slot there with a heatsink on it, like a copper heatsink. Single M.2, so you're not going to be putting in two, but you can upgrade the one that comes with it. That's right there. So nice 2280 size. Interestingly, the heatsink is pretty massive, all things considered. I mean, you're getting dual heat pipe out of here. That's going to be for some VRM cooling there. Just double heat pipe here, one of them being pretty big, into a pretty massive fan, all things considered. That's fairly thick fan there. Nice, super dense fan blades on that too. And they're actually very interesting. This thing should move some serious air and actually run really cool. That's pretty hefty cooling on that for like a business laptop. And there's the speakers there. They're kind of flipped upside down. So we'll see how the sound is. There won't be a lot of stereo separation between the speakers there because they're both up here. But overall, it should be pretty good. But I mean, the most interesting thing here is it has a really big battery and a huge heatsink on that thing. That's massive for a business style laptop. Okay, here's a quick look at the specs on the laptop. So we have here the i7 1370p, which is actually a very powerful, it's a very powerful low wattage CPU that Intel offers. It's not going to compete with, the 13700H or something like that, but this is a very capable CPU, all things considered. 14 cores, 20 threads, 64 gigabytes of RAM. So this thing is decked out for professional use. So again, if you're doing some serious work on this laptop, you're going to get a ton of RAM there. DDR5, so it's only going to run at 4800 megahertz, but it's fast enough. And SSD, Samsung, I can tell right now that's a Samsung 980 Pro. It's just the OEM version, so it's going to be a very fast SSD. Wi-Fi, again, Intel Wi-Fi 6, AX211, very fast Wi-Fi. We'll check that again. We have our XE graphics, we have our integrated graphics, but we also have this Nvidia A500 processor. So you're going to be able to actually do some video type work on this. You can game with that GPU as well, which we will test later in the video just for fun. That's more geared towards helping out the processor with things like video encoding that or 3D works. So the way they have it spec'd out, the one that they sent me here has the 1370p, so we can go with that here. But you can see there's lots of different processors. All of these are capable processors. The i5 1340p, I've tested it, it's good. The 50p I've tested, it's good. The 60p I've tested, it's good. And the 70 I've tested, it's good. These are all great processors. You get a lot of performance out of them. Screen options here, there's lots of them. I wouldn't consider these lower ones. I mean, just basically costs nothing to jump up to this one here, which then has 100% sRGB, middling resolution, so it's almost just shy of 1440p, so it's not going to completely devour your battery. But I think the real winner is the OLED. You can see here it's 170 bucks. You get into the OLED, you get 100% DCI-P3, which is going to have awesome colors. We saw that. 400 nits brightness, awesome. It is an HDR screen as well, anti-reflective, and very high resolution, 2.8K. So I mean, this is the exact machine I have spec'd out there. It's pretty decked out for a business machine, and to be honest, the price is really not that bad when you deck them out to this kind of extent, where you're getting OLED, very powerful processor, tons and tons of RAM, and dedicated graphics, and you're at 1921 before you add any types of coupons on. Add on some coupons and you can make this pretty compelling. Okay, now let's have a look at the keyboard here. So I mean, it's your typical ThinkPad keyboard. There's really not much, if anything, different about it from your typical ThinkPad keyboard. You get your standard layout here. The keys, I've noticed recent years, are a little bit thinner on some of these S models, but they're certainly not low profile, I'd call them. That's more like the IdeaPad. You can see there it's still a decent size keycap on there, and the travel is obviously quite good. You can see there. Yeah, super snappy keyboard. I mean, it's a ThinkPad keyboard. Nothing really different about it from other ThinkPad keyboards. Meaning it's very good. ThinkPads are basically the best keyboards really you can get. The Lenovo Legions are, I would say, basically the same nowadays. This is like a texture. This is very smooth. I don't think it's a glass trackpad. No, it's not. It's just very well, I don't know, polished. It feels very smooth to the touch. Of course, the accuracy of Lenovo ThinkPads is very good. Fine. I don't find their clicks to be like game changing. It's just fine, whatever. But then you also do get the track point. People call it like the nub, whatever. It's called a track point. And this is good for, you can basically move your mouse around like this here. And then, you left click, right click, scroll. If I'm typing, especially if you're a touch typist, I'm like a semi-touch typist, and you're typing up a document here, and then you have to use your trackpad. You have to bring your hand off of the keyboard and move your trackpad to the spot in the document, then place your hand back. Once you get the hang of using a track point, you don't have to do that. You just move your finger over, right? You move the mouse around, you do whatever you want to do to your document, and you move your finger back and you're back to typing. Let's test the screen here. Now this is an OLED screen, so it's very beautiful, and it's not just an OLED screen, it's a beautiful OLED screen. So it has very good color accuracy, and it has a huge color range, the gamut. My iPhone will not do this justice. I'll try my best, and it just looks absolutely superb. Let's go through this here. Beautiful, beautiful screen. Interestingly, you can see here how low the reflection. I have a really bright light, basically right here. You can see on the screen. I recently reviewed the Lenovo Legion 14 Slim with an OLED, beautiful OLED screen, but it's a super glossy OLED screen. So it was very reflective. If you watch my review, you go back and see that. You'll see there's a lot of reflectivity on that OLED screen. It's a high refresh, 120 hertz OLED, blah, 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 whatever. This is a kind of a matte OLED screen. So you don't get nearly as much reflectivity. You can see there. Like that's, if this was that glossy OLED screen, that would be like a mirror finish there. You could, yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous screen. It looks way better in person. I apologize that I can't, I mean, the camera lens just isn't capable of picking up the colors. It looks significantly better in person. Yeah, it doesn't even look good on camera. I can tell you, I can guarantee you that if you use this screen, you're gonna find it to be absolutely gorgeous. Turn it up a bit. Gets really loud. It's good. Same as every other ThinkPad. It doesn't have that low-end bass. When I test, thicker chassis MacBooks, for example, or if I test, a Lenovo Legion or an Asus G14, G17, whatever, those are thicker chassis with much more lower-end bass, and you can really get that undertone of low-end bass. There's almost none of that in this laptop. It sounds very crisp. It sounds very clear. No tinniness. It sounds really nice. It just doesn't have a ton of low-end bass. So it's like 33. That's my desktop computer under my desk running. There's absolutely no noise when I'm just, going through Windows, going on YouTube and that kind of thing. The fans are not spinning up. Here's just a look at the fans when doing some Cinebench runs. So it's not quiet. It's on absolute max, the CPU is being max, so it's certainly not super quiet, but it's also not pitchy. The sound or the acoustics of the laptop when running Cinebench is, I don't know, it's just not like a pitchy, annoying sound or anything like that. Okay, and here's a look at the built-in webcam. You can see there I have a really bright light behind me, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. My shirt is obviously very, very bright. My skin, it's a little pale in the video. It's a little bit pale, but overall it looks good. The refresh rate looks nice and solid too. Actually a pretty big wide viewing angle there too. So it looks like a pretty good webcam overall. And we'll see how the mic sounds, but pretty happy with this webcam actually. Look at some benchmarks here. So you can see that it is a Samsung 980 Pro OEM SSD included. So obviously very, very good scores here on Crystal Dismark for that SSD. Cinebench scores here are pretty good. We're getting 11,267. And it's not a super high powered, gaming H or HX series Intel, but it's still gonna be very capable for coding and video editing. And then we move into some Time Spy here. And again, scores on the CPU are quite good. 11,300, very, very respectable. And look at those graphics scores. You may not think that's quite good, but again, 3,000 is a respectable GPU score, and you can do gaming on that, especially at 1200p or 1080p. You're going to be able to do some gaming on it, and that's because of thanks to that Nvidia A500. And then you can see here that the battery life is one of the weaknesses of this laptop. Again, it doesn't have a huge battery, and then it's got the Intel CPU, a little bit more performance oriented, and then of course those Nvidia graphics. You're going to get around 4 to 5 hours idle. Not fantastic, but also not terrible, kind of middling. Then you move into some 1080p 60 YouTube here, and you'll get around 3 to 3.5 hours of this type of YouTube mixed use type content. So not the best battery life, but again, it's not really what the laptop is designed for. Okay, here we are in Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm just doing this as a starting point to kind of get a baseline. So we're at that really high resolution, the native resolution, with just quality DLSS, on lower settings, but again, this is just to get a baseline. It's actually running really well, so it's pretty ambitious. Let's try performance here and see what we can get out of this. I think we're going to be okay, actually. Yeah, performance DLSS again on that very high resolution on balance mode, and we're getting well over 30. So I mean, again, this is like last gen console, PS4 Pro level performance here. 1440p. It's above 1440p, right? It's 1800p. And we're getting well above 30. It's basically locked because those lows are really good. So, but here we go. I mean, now you're getting some serious frames here. So 1200p on the favorite performance setting, and just the lightest DLSS. It actually looks really good. Visually, it looks quite good. You know, I'm not seeing like all these jankies or anything like that. We're getting rock solid, you know, 35-ish lows. And here we're back. So again, we have ultra textures now, everything else on medium, and you can see it doesn't really impact the performance that much, but it just looks better. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but everything just looks a little bit more realistic, his jacket and that. So anyways, you can see here, very good performance, 1200p medium, no scaling, and ultra textures, and away you go. Rock solid performance here. Again, this game only runs at 30 on like all modern consoles, last gen and modern, so you can see here it's just running very well. Yeah, 50, now you're going to get your 60 or whatever, 55 to 60, if you really need that really high frame rate. It's only a 60 hertz refresh rate screen, so there's no point going above this, but this is a dog. Can I pet him? No. But yeah, there you go. Okay, and here's the real test, Hogwarts Legacy. This game is brutal to run. So we're doing 1200p native on medium, no scaling. And yeah, it's gonna run. We're in Hogsmeade too, so. Basically, if you can run Hogwarts at this kind of performance level, you're gonna be able to play really everything, to be honest, with reasonable settings, but this is a run through. Look at those lows, they're not even dipping down. This is 1200p native on medium. Very good performance here. So obviously this A500 is doing its job. This would probably be almost equivalent to like RTX 3050 performance, maybe 2050, but somewhere around there. This is very good performance. I'm getting no dips. Okay, now we're getting into a truly brutal game. This is Starfield, 1200p native on low. It's actually doing better than I thought. We're getting close to 30, which is going to be, you know, console level. There we go, just 75% FSR. When they add DLSS in this, it should improve the performance a bit more even as well, and it'll look better, but you can play Starfield, which is universally panned for being difficult to run. Yeah, you'll be fine. Let's throw it up just a bit more, because I mean, you're probably going to want to go for a bit more performance if you can. Just go like that there. See how that looks there? Yeah, there you go. There's your 40. Looks a little soft. I would probably play actually at 75 and whatever, but it's working. That's basically the point here. So there you go. You can play Starfield at 30 FPS or 40 if you're willing to soften it a bit. I'd probably just play at 75% FSR. And what do I think of the ThinkPad P14s here? Actually, I just thought this was going to be another ThinkPad, which is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with just another ThinkPad. ThinkPads are awesome. I just thought it was going to be a generic, you know, P-labeled ThinkPad where, you know, it's basically just like a workstation type machine. But it's actually a powerhouse. Maybe that's what P stands for. It doesn't have like a gaming processor or anything. It's got the 1370p, which is still very powerful. That Nvidia graphics that are in here, that A500 graphics in here is actually very capable. It's really good performance in gaming tasks and in productivity tasks as well. Obviously, you get all the nice to haves that ThinkPads have. You know, keyboard's really nice, ThinkPad keyboard. You get your track point nib, all of that. But then on this here, you get this beautiful OLED screen here. And it's a matte OLED screen. You can see here with that reflectivity. That may look really intense on camera, but you know, I'm actually trying to make it reflect. If you see what I'm looking at right now, I have a light on behind me. It's just not reflective whatsoever. So, I mean, it's actually a very beautiful screen on here. You get the beautiful color range, really, really fine resolution as well, and you get a beautiful OLED screen. So a lot of the times, you know, these business laptops just don't have nice screens. They either have dark, dim screens. It's rare to find something that's an OLED and high resolution and good color gamut. All of that on one screen like this. I mean, if you're looking for a really powerful, beautiful, capable 14-inch laptop. It's kind of hard to beat, to be honest.